The Seattle Mariners, before this deadline in 2024, need to make changes and add bats, or quite frankly, ownership, sell the team. Just sell the team because you're wasting talent, you're wasting people's time, and you're taking advantage of fans. This is a Game Face Sports breakdown of the Seattle Mariners. It's a little bit different from my usual content, a whole lot of ranting about what I think the Mariners need to make sure they do before this deadline and why they need to do it. I'll have everything time stamped out. So if you want to listen to a specific section, you can. Kick your feet up. Let's talk about the Mariners for better or worse. Let's get straight into it. First and foremost, the most important thing, and I think the perfect place to start this episode with, is a quote from Jerry Dipoto, Seattle Mariners GM. And he said this on Seattle Sports in an interview. When asked about the trade deadline, he said, quote, "We are open to doing something that has potential to be dynamic. Don't know if that's going to be available. Right now, it's not. And this is as late as we've ever gone into a deadline where I can honestly say it's not." So let me sum that up and why this is the head of the snake and why this bothers me so much. What Jerry is really saying here is right now he thinks that the people they want to go out and acquire at the trade deadline are going to cost too much. And when I say cost too much, all we're referring to is prospects. That's it. I don't think they're trading anyone that's a big name, that's an MLB ready player, because we need those guys on the team right now. So we're just talking about prospects. And if you're just talking about prospects and saying guys aren't available for the right price, you're prospect hugging. And let's lead this a little bit further back. Why are they prospect hugging? Because ownership is cheap. That's just what it is. And they will never say it. Jerry will never say it. It's not necessarily Jerry's fault. Ownership cares the most, and they've shown it time and time again about profit, which maybe that's their right to do, whatever. But the problem with that is it makes you hug prospects. What they don't want to give up, what they really don't want to trade away, is a young player who could potentially be really, really good someday for a league minimum contract. They want somebody on a rookie deal that's super cheap, that provides a lot to the team and is a dynamic player, but they don't want to pay someone for that. They don't want to give someone a big contract. Perfect example. Cal Raleigh. You can make the case that Cal is the best catcher in baseball right now. You can make that argument 100%. And he's making the league minimum. He has a roommate. He doesn't own a house in Seattle. Okay. That's the kind of ownership we're talking about here. And this upcoming season, he's going to be among one of the guys that's looking for $100 million contract. A, he deserves it. And B, they better give it to him. But this is why they want to hug prospects, because when they end up paying guys like that, because they're so cheap and they don't want to, they want to hold on to these prospects and hope they come up on a rookie deal and produce immediately and not have to pay them. So I just want to get that out of the way before I get into like the trade deadline and what I want to see them do, exactly what the bare minimum would be and why they should do it. I just wanted to make sure I cleared that up first because it's important and that's what's holding the team back. So now that we know what the head of the snake is and we know that there's limitations there, now let's talk about the deadline. Let's start with what I feel would be the bare minimum for them to do this deadline, for me to walk away from it and be like, you know what? I'm happy with that. They made the right amount of moves. I'm okay with this. No problem. Thanks for giving it a shot. Let's talk about what that bare minimum is for me. And to first understand what my bare minimum is, you need to understand that there's absolutely a level of this team can get better with addition by subtraction. I want to see guys like Mitch Haniger, Jorge Polanco, Dom Canzone, a little bit of Dylan Moore, Mitch Garver. I want to see guys like that take a lot less at bats. I want to take the bat and the glove, quite frankly, out of the hands of Mitch Haniger, Polanco, Garver to an extent, Dom Canzone, guys like that. Get them out of the lineup as much as you possibly can and replace them with league average bats. And I also want to make something clear about league average bats. For, I believe, 80% of this lineup, and I'm dead serious, it's like 80%, a 100 WRC plus, a league average bat by definition, is better than almost every guy on this team. So if they go and they get a Mark Canha or somebody that's like an average defensive player, average athleticism, 100 WRC plus, straight average across the board, that's better than almost all these guys. That's better than almost all of them. So I feel like we're not really asking for much. So now that we fully understand what I'm saying here, the bare minimum would be one good to great bat. Good to great bat. That's a Brent Rooker. That's a Isaac Paredes. That's a Luis Robert. Okay. I put those in like the great bat categories. Good bat. They're in talks with Jazz Chisholm. I think he's at like a 110 or 115 WRC plus. Great athlete. Can play the outfield and he can play second base. Would take at bats away from Jorge Polanco. I would put that in the good bat category. But if they're going to add, let's say Jazz Chisholm is the number one talented player that they get. Like that's the number one guy. If that's going to be the case, bare minimum, 2 league average bats underneath them. Somebody cheap, the cheapest possible to get guy that is an average defender in a corner outfield and is a league average bat. Can't be that expensive. And I also want to point out, give away the prospects to do it. I want to see the Seattle Mariners. I'm dead serious when I say this. I want to see them overpay for a guy. Give away the prospects. I'm so sick of prospect hugging. You guys don't watch the Modesto Nuts. I'll take this from Colby Patnode on Locked On Mariners. I'll steal what he says when it comes to this because I think he's 100% right when it comes to this point exactly. It includes me. I don't watch the Modesto Nuts. I don't watch the Rainiers. I don't know anybody in the minor league system that's for the Seattle Mariners. I watch the Seattle Mariners. I don't care about prospects. I know I'm a fan. I don't have to look at the future the same way that a GM or an ownership does. I know on some level they do have to care, but you should, in my opinion, pick like one guy that you absolutely cannot live without. Everyone else is fair game. Trade the farm if you have to. Get a good to great bat. If Jazz Chisholm is the best, I need to see 2 average bats below him come into this lineup. 2. That's 3 total bats. If you get a great bat, if they get a Luis Robert, a Vlad Guerrero, Isaac Paredes, I can live with 1 average bat or 1 good bat underneath that and call it good with 2 bats. I'm good with that. So that is my bare minimum. Notice I didn't mention anything about pitching because I truly believe this pitching staff, 100%, the way it's designed, the way it's set up right now, especially with the starting rotation, is good enough to win the World Series. They could not touch this pitching staff. And I know that there's bullpen questions. I know that there's bullpen problems. And everybody that thinks that that should be on the top of the list of someone to get, I couldn't disagree more. I would rather use the prospects you'd be giving up to get a good pitcher to go get another bat. I don't care. Like, I think they should just not touch the pitching staff because when you get in the playoffs, I know that Scott Service has not shown yet that he's willing to leave pitchers in, but I know he will. When it comes playoff time, or you're fired, quite frankly. When you get to the playoffs, people forget you don't really need as much bullpen. Yes, it's important, but you're really good starting pitching. Leave them in for 110, 115, 120 pitches. They'll probably do some of that. They'll probably leave them into the 8th inning of games. Maybe go a complete game if they're in a chance to do that with Logan Gilbert, a true ace. Will it hurt you a little bit in the regular season? Yes, but honestly, the pitching staff is good enough. If you just get them the run support, just a little bit more athleticism on the base paths, guys that'll come up and give you a league average at bat, you are 100% in a position to win. That bare minimum that I mentioned, I do think if they bring that into the lineup and don't touch the pitching, we are looking at a potential World Series championship team. 100%. They have a chance, especially if they hit that upside and, guys like Julio and Cal keeps hitting like timely home runs and Ty France comes through and starts hitting for a better average. Like, this team absolutely has the potential talent to get to that level, especially if they add guys in the lineup. That's all I'm trying to say. And now that I mentioned that, let's mention what I think is a fireable offense. A, not doing anything, or B, just getting one guy like Jazz Chisholm and doing nothing else. That is absolute bull. That's so unacceptable, because if there was ever a time and if there was ever a year that this team should be going potentially like all in, this is the time. Guys are only going to start getting more expensive. Guys are only going to start looking for more money. You got to take a chance now. You have to. This could quite literally be your best chance to win a championship that you will have in the next 10 to 20 years. This year right now could potentially be that year. So if you just go and get one bat and you do nothing else, that I will be coming back up here for an episode, calling for people's jobs, saying clean house. This is an absolute joke and absolutely trashing this franchise to the highest degree. Mark my words, I will come on here and do that. If they do not at least get 2 impact bats or 3, they have to. Another situation where I think people should 100% be losing their jobs, from players to management, coaches, everybody. If this team misses the playoffs, you should be attacking this deadline like your job is on the line, because it should be on the line. If this team doesn't make the playoffs, if they miss and Houston takes the division from you and you don't even make a wild card spot, it should be full-blown house cleaning time. And when I say house cleaning, I mean you keep the starting pitching rotation if you can. You keep Cal and Julio, and everyone else is fair game. Everyone else is fair game. Nobody's job is safe. Start cleaning house if that happens. 100%. This team should not be missing the playoffs. And now my last point that I want to make is Julio Rodriguez. No matter what you think about how this season's gone so far, Julio, even though he's had an uptick recently and he seems to have figured it out now, has been by far the biggest disappointment on this team. Bar none. Nobody else even fits the description. Nowhere near Julio. This team goes as far as Julio will take them. And the thing with Julio is, even when he's playing bad, he will still have a defensible position, and people and fans and coaching staffs will still defend him, because at his worst, he's still going to hit for like a 240 average. He'll flare some singles out there, and he's going to give you one of the best outfield defenses in the league. Unbelievable on the base paths, gonna steal bags, one of the fastest guys on top of that. And, he kind of makes up for it. It makes him a good player. But the problem is, we're not paying Julio to not be a problem. They are paying Julio to be a solution. There needs to be games in this last stretch of the season where Julio is the sole reason we win the game. We need Julio to be so good that he has more of those 4 for 4, 3 for 4, 2 for 4 with a double and a home run and like 4 RBI games. We're going to need a lot more of that in the second half. In fact, the Mariners demand it. And if they don't get that in the second half of the season, they're not a championship team. You need Julio to be a star at the highest level. And if he does not provide that, this team doesn't have a chance to win a championship. And I wanted to make sure I made that the last point. He's the most important player on this team. Not just because of his production, by the way, but also because the energy and how contagious that offense is. And I know there's no stats to support it, but I am a firm believer that hitting is somewhat contagious. And when your star player, who's seems to have a lot of energy in the clubhouse most of the time, and, a young, energetic guy going out and being vocal and having fun and smiling and being productive on top of that, the team feeds on that, and they need that. And I think this team will go Julio goes. So if they bring in those 2 or 3 impact bats, Julio plays great. Cal gets those timely home runs, and guys just play it just even close to where their average is as a player. The rest of them, the Ty Francis of the world, the Dylan Moores, the Garvers, the Luke Rayleys, JP Crawford, for Christ's sakes. If they get that, they have a real chance to win a championship, even if they don't touch the pitching. If you guys watch to this point, please consider subscribing. I'm going to be doing baseball breakdowns all through the MLB season. If you've been here before and you watch, thank you. I seriously appreciate it. As frustrating as this team makes me, I'm still having fun, believe it or not. I promise. I promise you. I can't wait for baseball to come back. You guys are absolutely the best. I'm having a ton of fun. So please, we'll see if we can get this video to can we get 20 likes on this video? We'll see if we can do it. Drop a comment below. I read every single comment I get, every single one. I can't promise I'll respond to everyone, but I'm going to read every single one. Let me know what you think the Mariners should do this season, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Let's go.